Are you struggling for consistency in your sim racing? Does your iRating look like a roller coaster? If so, we have good news for you. The way to get more consistent is to first understand what you're doing differently than the professionals. And VRS is the answer. With our competitive subscription, you will have the telemetry, setups, tutorials, and everything else you need to fully analyze your driving. Our data packs and the ability to compare your driving with the best in the world will show you exactly where to adjust your inputs, change your driving line, and shave seconds off of your lap times. And our powerful and precise Direct Force Pro wheelbase and precision pedals are being used by some of the world's best drivers. All these champions agree that VRS hardware is not just the best on the market, it's also priced well below the competition. So if you're looking to upgrade to direct drive and the best pedals in sim racing, VRS is your answer. If you want to get better, get faster, and make it happen sooner rather than later, you owe it to yourself to find out why so many people are switching to VRS. You'll be so glad that you did. Visit www.virtualracingschool.com and learn why the best use VRS.
Hi, everybody, and welcome to the Esports Racing League's 6th season, the Summer Tour, presented by Spec Racer Sports, Alliance Autosport, and Grassroots Motorsports Magazine here on Apex Racing TV. Over the course of our 9-week regular season and then the winner-take-all runoffs, we'll bring you some of the best racing around in 3 different classes well known to club racers here in the United States: Spec Miata, Spec Racer Ford, and the Formula 4 Formula Cars. I'm Greg Ginsburg, and along with Tim Cox in the commentary booth and Dennis Branch in the virtual production trailer, we're going to bring you week number 7. And of course, our drivers, they've already managed to check out from the oh-so-beautiful Lexington, Ohio Red Roof Inn and headed south to Birmingham, Alabama, to last week's home of the 2022 Miata reunion. And while they may be a week late, our Ray Esports Spec Miata drivers will battle it out at one of the newest tracks in the U.S., the Alan Wilson designed 16-turn, 2.4-mile Barber Motorsports Park. Opened in 2003, it touts not only the largest motorcycle museum in the world, but perhaps for all you spider lovers, the biggest damn arachnid I've ever seen. And so, more importantly, its many twists and turns and elevation changes will challenge our drivers from green to checker here tonight. And so, as we do each week, tonight we'll feature 2 20-minute sprint races. As mentioned, first up, and you can see them here on the screen, will be the Spec Miata, and they're going to be followed by Spec Racer Ford just a little bit later tonight. And both classes are going to be contesting their 5th of 6th rounds here in the championship. Our F4 drivers, don't you worry, they'll return next week when we head to Sonoma Raceway. And so, Tim, good evening and welcome to Birmingham. And really quick, this is a neat fact I found out about Birmingham, Tim. It's the only place in the world where all 3 raw ingredients for steel, and of course, when we talk about racing and cars, steel, very important, coal, limestone, and iron ore, they all occur naturally within a 10-mile radius of this racetrack here at Barber.
I do love a good fact, Greg, and well, this Birmingham slightly different to the Birmingham that I'm in the UK that I'm based near, and that's more famous for the Curry Mile, a mile-long road that has literally wall-to-wall curry restaurants, Indian restaurants. But well, from a track that was as I said to you last week, shaped like an elephant's head at Road Atlanta, where we saw absolutely epic action. I know that one still floors you to this day.
Yes, it does.
To a track that's like for me, it's like a mini flattened version of the Nordschleife, which you could actually argue is actually nothing like the Nordschleife whatsoever. But it's tough, it's technical, there's lots of swooping corners, but can be a little bit tricky for overtaking. The big key points are into turn 1 and also into turn 5 as well. But, Greg, you can sling it right round the outside if you're brave enough into the second to last corner. It looks dramatic, it looks spectacular, and in the car it feels even better if you can pull it off.
Yeah, as we watched there, as Jordy Fike came down around the first couple of corners, and this will be key to the start of our races tonight. Certainly, if you start on the outside of the front row, if you can brake just a little bit later and hang on and not run the car into the grass coming through turn 1, you get set up for a very long sweeping right-hander through turns 2 and 3 through the carousel, and it can catapult you into the lead. But yeah, one of the big challenges that we have at this track at Barber, whether it be with the Miatas, the MX-5s here, or we'll see it in the Spec Racer Fords also, not a lot of heavy traditional braking zones and a lot of sweeping corners, not the highest of speed, but what you find here, because a lot of camber with a lot of the corners here, the track is not that wide. It's only 45 feet from edge to edge. That's 10 feet more narrow than you see at the National Park of Speed at Road America. It is, as you said, very difficult to make a pass. What you have to rely on in many times is for the driver up ahead to make a mistake. Their hands are constantly moving here at Barber. Seemingly by the time you finish one turn complex, the next begins. The straightaways are not very long, including the front straight here, and it should make for a challenge. And and as long as you keep up in the draft, it then becomes very interesting for these drivers, that they will get bottled up, they'll get all bunched up, and you inevitably have to worry about not only the cars in front but the cars behind. I think another, and what I've seen over the years, another very challenging corner for a lot of drivers here is, as we talk about capitalizing on your competitors' mistakes and misfortune, is actually the very final corner, turn 16. Here, as we are watching right now, Deacon Greenfield come out of turn 16, and you saw there he dropped the wheel on the exit into the grass just past the exit curbing, and that is, as drivers tried to carry more speed onto that front straight, the tendency to turn in a little bit early, and it is not uncommon to see drivers drop rear wheel all the way back into the retaining wall on along the pit lane on driver's left.
Now, Greg, one of the key features about not only the Spec Miatas that we're seeing in race 1, but also the Ford Spec Racers that we're having later on. I mean, ironically for me, the quintessential SCCA cars.
Yes.
I think hands down, you can't really argue too much with that one. But the key to both these cars, in fact, is momentum. And the ability to carry that momentum through the curves. And I think that's what's going to separate quite a few of our drivers, as Charles Vaccaro there, just carrying a bit of extra momentum into the wall during the end of qualifying. But I think that might even be qualifying done. Yes, I think that's qualifying done and dusted for him. But yeah, that's what's going to be so crucial. The drivers that can carry a lot more momentum will actually facilitate some easier overtaking opportunities. But I'll tell you what, if qualifying is aimed to go for, the time separating Fike, Vaccaro and Mack right now, 2 temps covering the 3 of them, that's going to be a close battle. And under 1/10 separating Greenfield, Casey and Hayes, I'll tell you what, there could be some absolute firecrackers, and we could be in for an absolute show and a real riot with those 2 sets of battles with those fiercely contested times.
Oh, yeah. So, all right. So let's do this. As we have now just about 3 minutes left in this 15-minute open qualifying session for our drivers, where they're trying to turn in a fast lap and set the grid for tonight's race. Let's take a quick look back to last week, where we were at the Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course. And we'll take a look at the MX-5 or the Spec Miata finish and where we stand in the championship point standings currently. It was a very tough, hard-fought race and came down to the very final lap in Spec Miata, where we had Caleb Patry, then Morgan Burkhardt, and then Jamison Huffman, 1, 2, 3, coming out of the keyhole on the very last lap. They were nose to tail, only about a quarter of a car length separating them. And Morgan got a great run out of the keyhole and was able to draft up to the left of Caleb Patry, our leader, as they made the run down that long-ish back straight down towards turn number 4. But there was contact between the two cars, really upset Patry's machine, and Burkhardt was able to get the run going down into 4, under braking, was able to beat him up the hill into madness. Huffman tried to get around Patry as well, could not get it done, and that is how the race ended, with about 0.6 of a second separating our top 3 drivers, Morgan Burkhardt, then Caleb Patry, and then it was Jamison Huffman finishing in 3rd. And so if we take a look at the point standings now, and this is after 4 rounds of 6 in the championship, Morgan Burkhardt is currently your points leader with 75. Both Caleb Patry and Jordy Fike right now are tied for 2nd with 63 points, and then sitting in 4th, Beans Forster with only 62 points, just 1 point back. Jamison Huffman coming off that 3rd place finish. You can see there he is sitting another 5 points back from Forster. But for the time being, it looks like Morgan Burkhardt, who I do not believe is here this evening, has a bit of a stranglehold on Spec Miata here in the Ray Esports Racing League for Season 6.
He does, and without him here today, this is a big opportunity for Patry and Fight to really close that gap up, Greg. And well, can they do it? Well, I think the form book says they can, but as we've seen time and time again with this, fiercely contested grids, well, it takes us 1 or 2 incidents and it can completely unravel your race. And let's not forget that, as much as there are runoff areas around Barber, the walls are never too far away from you. And if you get into them, then that's your race done and dusted.
Yeah, and you can see here there are certainly some areas there where the Armco moves quite a bit away. There is a lot of grassy area there, but then there are areas right along the trackside going into some of these corners where the fencing, the Armco, is very, very close. And again, it's one of those things where you may have a lot of runoff room to your outside coming out of a corner. But if you drop the wheels, you may find yourself coming across the track surface to the area where you don't have a lot of margin for error. So we see here, as we have now hit the 15-minute mark and actually have gone a little bit over it with qualifying done, I believe now possibly Charles Vaccaro still out on track. If he is the only driver still remaining, but I think he has called off his session. Indeed, he has. So we will have our starting grid here in just a moment. And again, reminder, we will have Spec Racer Fords up next after this, so definitely stick around after our first race this evening here from Barber.
It's going to be some absolute crackers. I could feel it coming. I mean, as much as we have a slightly smaller grid here today, Greg. We've only got 12 cars, but it takes 2 cars to have a race, and we've seen time and time again how finishes and battles emerge. And we've got a lot of drivers that have been contesting and been racing closely for the majority of the season, and I don't think it's going to be any different here. And they're still going to be having those great battles. I, for one, can't wait for this one to begin. I think it's going to be a real door banging, just classic Mazdas, really, from start to finish.
Exactly, and I think there's as we'll see here, both in the Miatas as well as in the Spec Racer Fords. Again, I think just enough where the draft will have an effect and bring cars close together to bring on those fights and battles that we really look for. Now, there are a couple of drivers this week that I know are going to be looking for a little redemption after last week. Sean Hayes, driver off at Mid-Ohio on, I believe it was on lap 1. Greg Mack, who seems to find himself in the wrong place at the wrong time, seemingly week after week. Hopefully things will come out well for him this evening. But let's do this. We'll run down the starting grid for tonight's race, where Caleb Patry is your pole sitter with a pole setting time of 1:37.985. That is just about 4/10 up on our outside pole sitter today, driving the number 30 machine. It's Wan Chi Lin starting second. Greg Mack, the aforementioned Team Esports Racer driver, will start third tonight with a time only a half second off the pole. Jordy Fike, his teammate, will start right next to him in fourth. Charles Vaccaro will start fifth tonight with Deacon Greenfield from All Sports Racing. He will start in sixth. Then our fourth row tonight, John Casey from 046 Racing. He'll start seventh with Sean Hayes. Again, looking for a little redemption tonight in that black and yellow number 94 machine. He's going to start eighth tonight. Then we've got Wayne Buttermore starting ninth. I had to mention Joaquin, because if you have Wayne, you have to have Joaquin Effinger starting probably right next to him or right behind him. And Joaquin Effinger is going to share row number 5 with Wayne Buttermore. Then we've got Josh Soto, who I don't believe set a qualifying time tonight. He will start in 11th. And here's perhaps here, Tim, is that our pole sitter, Caleb Patry, did not take the grid, is not on the pace lap here. And so that is actually going to move Greg Mack and Wan Chi Lin up into first and second. It's going to move Greg Mack, driver of the number 2 machine, to the pole position, as those drivers will come down for the start. Now, real quick, I want to talk about our sponsor for tonight's race, since we have a little bit of time here, Tim, and that is Grassroots Motorsports Magazine. Built for the true sports car enthusiast, GRM has one mission: to be your personal guide to the sports car world. Whether it's online at grassrootsmotorsports.com, in print, or in person, the racers and builders, the car nerds at Grassroots Motorsports, take you behind the scenes and show you how to make your car better. Along the way, they'll give you a taste of everything else this hobby has to offer, from 1,000 horsepower track monsters to cool street cars built in driveways. They also maintain a collection of staff-built project cars, because hands-on technical articles aren't typed behind a desk, they're scribbled down in the garage. To not only read but become part of the story, head on over to grassrootsmotorsports.com. So that is definitely the big surprise of the evening. Our pole sitter, Caleb Patry, newly anointed driver for Team Hardpoint, not here this evening, or at least, no, he's here this evening. He qualified on pole. Not starting here with the rest of our drivers as they come on to the front straight. And you can see Wan Chi Lin in that outside row really dropping behind, but we now have a green flag as we have Greg Mack, your new pole sitter, bringing the field down into turn number 1. And as we mentioned, Tim, if you can stick it to the outside and keep that pace, you can take the lead, as Wan Chi Lin has just done. Greg Mack's going to fall to second. Jordy Fike, his Team Esport Racer teammate, slots into third. Then we've got Charles Vaccaro and Deacon Greenfield side by side coming through turn number 4, heading down towards the hairpin at turn number 5, side by side. And it looks like Vaccaro has taken over that position, as we now have Casey and Hayes battling it out through the hairpin, past the big spider, and heading down towards the corkscrew.
It's tight out there, Greg, in that midfield. Everyone on top of one another, as you can see, almost arriving 2 by 2. They're into 7, and everyone just zipping in together, avoiding the contact in these early stages. They all know that everything is on the line here. It's a big day for a lot of our drivers. They can haul a lot of points in here. And I think that's maybe why we're seeing a little bit of a tentative start. As Greenfield's off.
Greenfield off. And you said it, Tim. That Armco comes up on and it hurts you, and there is a lot of damage to the front end of the number 63 machine driven by Deacon Greenfield, or probably the 36 machine of Greenfield. He's going to fall to the back of the pack. Let's take a look at the replay here.
So it's all settled, and he's just lost the rear. Just that cold tyres really suffering and providing a lack of grip in these early stages. Greenfield, where he's pushing so hard, is just undone by it all. I mean, we do have high track temperatures here today, 47 degrees. That's knocking on for about 120 degrees Fahrenheit. So that's not helping him whatsoever. And that's probably why we've seen that slight mistake from Greenfield.
Yeah, and that was in the section known as, and probably not the most famous corkscrew in American road racing, but a corkscrew nonetheless, as the track falls away from you, and you have very quick transitions to the right. Then you can pretty much straight line it. But I think what ended up happening is perhaps Greenfield turned in a little bit early. And just as you saw, as he got on the throttle, had the rear end walk around on him. As we have our drivers now working their way now through that corkscrew section one more time, and you'll see here they've got the little bends here over at turns 10 and 11, but coming on to that final section of the course, I don't know what you would call that last section. I'm still thinking of elephants and Road Atlanta. And damn you, Tim Cox, for doing it. But yeah, great run here as the drivers are coming through the final corners here. Turns 14 and 15. They'll have a quick move back to the left on the final corner, and you can see there as Wan Chi-Lin working the rear end of that car as the back end swings from one side to the next to transition from the right-hander of turn 15 to the left-hander of turn 16. He's going to lead the field as they complete lap number 3, and we have a bit of a 4-car breakaway now of sitting at the front. It is Wan Chi-Lin, Greg Mack, Jordy Fike, and Charles Vaccaro. Then a bit of a distance back to, I believe that's Josh Soto and John Casey. As Soto started at the tail end of the field, he's now made his way up into 5th.
He's had an absolutely blinding start. 6th place is obviously ups a little bit, obviously, through Greenfield's connection with the wall. Obviously, Caleb Patry not making the start either. But even so, Soto, that's still 4 positions claimed. He's on an absolute barnstorm right now. So that's Hayes just getting past Casey, Casey looking like he's running a bit slow there for me, and didn't quite catch what had happened to him. Oh, he's just blinked. I think, is he completely gone? Oh no, he's back again.
No, he's back now. And it looks like as he went to the netherworlds there, it looks like he made up some ground on Sean Hayes coming down through the corkscrew there, and he's right back onto the back of the car. Maybe he had some equipment or some connectivity issues that he had to deal with. I'll tell you though, you watch there as Sean Hayes is getting every last bit of curbing and maybe a little bit more. I don't want to say that is a recipe for disaster here at Barber, as you do want to use a lot of the curbing to open up some of these corners, but he's perhaps using the curbing at corners that maybe he shouldn't be using, and you can see there it's really lifting the car up. As we have the field now starting lap number 5. Wan Chi-Lin is your leader. He's got about a 6-car length advantage now over the Team Esports Racer teammates Greg Mack and Jordy Fike, and I'm glad I didn't invoke the announcer's curse on Greg Mack, as he's got a good little run going here. Certainly very much unlike what he had at Mid-Ohio a couple weeks last week.
This is really pushing on now, and I don't know if I want to mention Greg Mack too much, because of, like you say, putting the curse of the commentator on him. He's been the perennial, if he didn't have any bad luck, then he wouldn't have had any luck at all so far this season. But he's on for a strong result if he can hold this one on. But he does have Fike and Vaccaro hot on his heels. So this gets a little bit tricky, Greg, at these sort of stages when you're in this sort of position that Matt currently finds him in, because he's looking to hunt down Lynn and try and make a pass on him. However, he knows if he just gets it slightly wrong and doesn't get the move done on Lynn, then he's going to instantly have Fike and Vaccaro all over the back of him, and could well end up losing a place in the attempt to try and gain a place.
Well, and you know, I don't want to tell Greg Mack that perhaps he should be trying to look a little bit further back in line, but you'll notice now in this line here, what used to be a 4-car train is now definitely a 5-car train, as that black number 07 machine has caught up to the back of Charles Vaccaro. And Vaccaro now, I was just about to say, having run the fastest lap of the race at a 1:38.22, eclipsed by Josh Soto, who was a couple hundredths of a second faster. But those two drivers now, 2 laps in a row, are running about 0.3 of a second faster than the top 3. And Soto in particular, in the last 2 laps, has made up about 2.5 seconds on our top 3 drivers.
I mean, I've been watching Soto's lap times for the last 2-3 laps, Greg, and he's the fastest driver currently on the circuit of anyone, and he's really, really pushing. He can sense, he can smell, he can almost touch a place on the podium. Can Soto, and definitely the man in form, as we mentioned, climbed 6 places from the back row of the grid up into 5th. So there's all the momentum going with him right now, and so we're on board with Fike, and that is what 3/10 of a second looks like to the rear of Greg Mack's car. And I'll tell you what, Fike is another one to keep an eye out for, because he started to edge and just ever so slightly closer, bit by bit, onto the back of Mack, and definitely seems to be playing a lot more aggressive lines, does Mack. So does Fike, apologies, right now, over what Mack's currently doing.
Yeah, and you can even see right there is Jordy Fike choosing not to use all the pavement coming out of turn 15, setting up for the final corner, as if he was going to try to peek down to the inside of his teammate coming through the final corner. Certainly, I think being a little bit more aggressive and showing the nose quite a bit more now as Fike gets right up onto the back of Greg Mack, and you know, you have to wonder, you know, how cautious Fike might be with his teammate to try and find a way through, given how difficult it is to make a clean pass here. But I don't think that is anything in the mind of Soto right there, as Soto makes a great move on Vaccaro as they come out of the hairpin, and you saw there Soto was setting Vaccaro up going in, couldn't get it going in, but just snuck underneath him going to the apex.
So Vaccaro there, he just went to the defensive line to cover off the inside from the attacking Soto, and then in doing so just ran it in a bit too deep, and that's what allowed Soto to then utilize the cutback or the switchback and come inside him, move up, and that was how he gained the position with what looked like relative ease. But it was all down to the positioning of Soto, where he was just setting up the move 2-3 corners previously, just maneuvering and positioning Vaccaro right to where he wanted him, so that when he came down to turn 5, he had exactly where he wanted him. And that's how you made it look just so easy. And I tell you what, he is instantly onto the back of Fike, and back of Fike needs to be careful right now.
Yeah, when Soto managed to get around Vaccaro, and you can see there Soto looking to drivers left, coming through the carousel, coming through turns 2 and 3, doesn't quite have the pace to get even alongside the 09 car going the long way around. But you saw there, even when Soto made the move on Vaccaro, he carried such great and contact between the two Team Esport Racer drivers as they get together, as both Greg Mack and Jordy Fike. And Tim, wasn't I asking about how cautious Fike might be in trying to get past Greg Mack? Well, it looks like caution was thrown to the wind there, and the two teammates get together, and Soto now moves up in the second place. Let's take a look at the replay.
There was almost the smell of a little bit of desperation in the air, as well, I don't think that was really on there, Jordy Fike. It was a big, brave lunge late, and even then, Mack was still well ahead into the corner, but by then it was all too late. They were coming together, and it's all ended in disaster for the teammates. What looked like a double podium for them has now gifted Soto up onto the second place, second step of the podium. And I tell you what, he's been lapping at 3 attempts on average quicker than Lynn. So within the next 4 laps, Greg, he's going to be right onto the back end of Lynn.
And he's pulling, and there you go. We're throwing up on the screen right now. You can see almost a half a second, a lap, anywhere between 0.3 of a second and a half a second every single lap as he is taking that a bite out of the lead that Wan Qilin currently has here. As we start now lap number 9, we are a little bit over halfway, 12 minutes into this 20-minute race here from Barber Motorsports Park. And you see a good little fight, still a fight with John Casey and Sean Hayes. They've been going at it since lap number 1, it seems, giving themselves quite a bit of room there. I guess if you have triple monitors set up, maybe that's okay. I'd be a little worried to have a driver a car width and a half, off to my side, because I never know how close he's going to be. You might run into a situation like we had with the 2 teammates a few moments ago. But great move there by John Casey, going into the carousel. At least going, or probably not the carousel, going into the corkscrew, at least on the initial part of it. But of course, it threw his line right off again, and it allows Sean Hayes to get right back into the fight.
It's brought him right back into it, and I'll tell you what, they're for trading places there, but the 2 teammates of Fike and Mac, well, it's all gone so badly wrong for the pair of them. As you see, Mac just ran it in a bit deep there, and despite what looked like Fike having a bit more pace than Mac, Fike hasn't really been able to pull away from Mac too much, not to the level that I was maybe expecting, especially with that slightly more aggressive driving style that Fike was pulling out. But I do have to wonder, with these high track temperatures and that aggressive style, that within the next sort of 5 minutes, is that going to bring Mac back into the equation, because he'll have a lot more life left in his tyres rather than Fike, who's pushed them so hard.
Yeah, that is certainly going to be the question here. Again, very short races, 20 minutes in the whole scheme of things, not very long. But when you do have those track temperatures up in the 120, 130 degree Fahrenheit range, certainly if you're leaning on them and given, and you can see there it is, no, not 225 degrees. I'm looking at the wrong line. There you go, right about 120 degrees Fahrenheit here for track surface. Certainly if you're leaning on the tires, and especially the way this track works, both the left and the right hand tires, it's not like you get this little, this little pause and respite when on a track that is typically clockwise, and maybe the car is okay for the left hand turns, because there just aren't all that many left hand turns here. You are constantly moving in either direction, so you can run down all the tires. And I'll tell you, even Wan Qilin, and we saw him, trying to scrub tires in on the opening lap. Even right now, he's pushing that car as fast as he can. I mean, he knows that Josh Soto is coming, as the gap is now only 1.5 seconds, and you'd see there a little bobble from Wan Qilin going into turn number 2, going into that long sweeping carousel of turns 2 and 3.
A slight little mistake there from Lynn, and just showing that he's not infallible. He can get past him, and maybe with just a bit more pressure. And I tell you what, it's interesting between him and Soto, the differing lines, because just watching the relative times, Greg, Soto closes up as he approaches into 5 by around about 2 or 3 attempts, but then Lynn just gets on the power so much more earlier, is then able to extend that gap out once more. But Lynn taking a lot of the curbs there, and it is the quickest way around, but with a victory so close, only 4 minutes away, is he pushing a bit too hard, being a bit too adventurous on him? Well, as long as he's fully committed and at the top of this game, he'll be okay. But dicing with death, would I do it? I'm not 100% sure, Greg. I'm not so sure.
And that's a great little shot there coming through the corkscrew, and exactly what it looks like from behind the wheel. You can see those elevation changes there here as drivers get set up and as Lynn gets set up now coming through the final corner onto the front straight there. And again, a little drop of the wheel, drivers right off of the curbing. And you can see Soto is coming that last time by. He's not knocking out, 2500ths or half a second any longer. You can see there only knocked off about 1300ths of a second, but again, still making up ground. There has not been a single lap where the 30 machine has been able to stretch out or extend the lead over Josh Soto to this point. It's just a question, Tim, can he get there in time with now less than 3 minutes remaining? So we're looking at probably another 2 laps, I believe, after this one here, getting up to the back of Wan Shilin is one thing, obviously, and Soto has had very good luck with Vaccaro, and also obviously with the 2 Team Esports Racer drivers there. But will he be able to dispatch with Wan Shilin very quickly and enough time before the checkered flag comes out, assuming he can get up to Lynn before the checkered flag comes out?
I don't think he's going to do it. I mean, not to put doubt into Soto's abilities, but with so little time left, 1.3 seconds, in fact, made that actually 1.4. I think despite right now, Soto is throwing absolute caution to the wind and really pushing hard and going for it. I think it's too little too late, and there's just not going to be enough time left out there for him to catch up, let alone get past. As I tell you, we're still some cracking battles happening up and down the field.
Yeah, as we go back to this this amazing battle that we're seeing here for 6th, as both Sean Hayes and John Casey appear to be locked at the hip once again. I think the last time we checked in, John Casey had gained the advantage, had moved up into 6th position. Now it is Sean Hayes in that black and yellow number 94 machine that has gotten around the Team 046 Racer there with the John Player liveried Mazda MX-5, Mazda Miata there for John Casey. And it looks like Hayes now finally has opened up a little bit of a margin, a little bit of breathing room, as we see here as Lynn is using every last bit of the pavement that he can coming down through the carousel, as Soto continues to get closer. That last time by, though, what did I say that Wan Shilin had not been able to extend his lead on any lap? Well, he did it for the one time that perhaps he needed to. Last time by, he was 0.02 of a second faster than Josh Soto. So didn't extend it by much, maybe 2 to 3 feet, but extended it nonetheless, as our drivers now, our leaders, coming out of the final 2 corners, coming onto the front straight now as Wan Shilin. White flag is in the air here at Barber Motorsports Park. Wan Shilin, your leader, started from the outside of row number 1 and worked his way up to the lead. Josh Soto had a much different path to the front tonight. He started in the 11th position, tailing Charlie, and he is knocking on the door of Wan Shilin here on the 14th and final lap at Barber.
I'm not so sure about Soto catching Lynn now. It was close to not having to run this final lap. When they crossed the line, Greg, there was only 5 seconds left on the clock, so we are truly running in overtime right now. But Soto is trying to put that Miata into absolute overdrive and engage warp speed. And I tell you what, it's working. He's taken another 10th out, but I don't know if it's... Well, he's having a good those run. I've seen he's just run too deep into the carousel. And he's just lost 4 attempts, Greg. So I think that's it, done and dusted for Soto.
Yeah, that is definitely going to do it, as he came in very deep into the first left-hander over turn 7. And we saw him take all that apex curbing and pop wide going into 8. And now, if he thought he had a chance, the gap is now back to a second and a half as they come into the final section. Soto throwing the car wide once again, coming out of the tunnel turn at turn 13. And as they roll up the hill, come up the hill through the final 2 corners, through 15 and now through turn 16 onto the front straight, Wan Lin keeps the car on the pavement, and he is going to take the win in our first race this evening. Wan Lin is your winner in Spec Miata. Josh Soto finishes 1.6 seconds back in second. Charles Vaccaro, he's going to bring the car home in third, having started 5th tonight. Jordy Fike will come home in 4th. Greg Mack, who started on pole this evening, he's going to finish in 5th. The battle between Sean Hayes and John Casey. Sean Hayes, he holds off John Casey. He's going to finish 6th tonight, having started 8th. John Casey, he's going to finish 7th. And then I believe we've got Wayne Buttermore and Joaquin Effinger. They have now, let's see, Buttermore has crossed the stripe. I think we're still waiting on Effinger coming around. Both he and then also Deacon Greenfield. Deacon Greenfield did take the checker. And that is going to wrap it up for this race. Let's take a look and see, do we have anybody in our green room for interviews? And we'll give them a couple seconds to catch their breath. But Tim, I think, and maybe the announcer's curse in some way did set in there. But, you have to think about what could have been for Greg Mack, who jumped out to that early lead and was working second position, and unfortunately he and his teammate got together around mid-race.
You've surmised it nicely there, really, Greg. I mean, what can we say? It's been a tale of rags and riches, really is, isn't it, with the Miatas from Barber Motorsport Park. I mean, big news, Caleb Patry only managing to complete 4 laps after not making the grid after a qualifying missed opportunity for him. And likewise with Fike as well, that contact with his teammate not helping him also. But I'll tell you what, Josh Soto, what a race. So close to having the back to front, last to first challenge completed. He gave it a good old go, but that mistake at the end, you could see how hard he was pushing him as he came out the carousel, just ran it in a bit too deep, got a bit twitchy, bit of understeer, and that was it. Game over. That was his opportunity gone. I mean, to be fair, I'm not even sure he would have truly caught him, but it really let the pressure off Lynn.
All right, well, tell you what, we've got Josh Soto. He's sitting in the green room right now. Why don't we bring him into the commentary booth, and we'll get his feelings on tonight's race. Here we go. Josh Soto, driver of the number, if I can grab him. There we go. Driver of the number 07 machine.
Here he is. Josh, congratulations. What a race.
Oh yeah, it was a really good race.
I mean, for a track that people say you can't overtake around, I mean, you've gained 9 places. I mean, really showing people how it's done. I mean, obviously, as you came, what was allowing you to have so much speed? Because you were just absolutely blitzing everyone, setting fastest laps and going quicker than anyone else on the track.
Oh yeah. It was I was really just trying to learn relearn the track. I don't really race on this track too much, or I don't really have that much experience with this track. But it was just like just try to learn the track, try to see what kind of lines everybody was taking, and just try to make the best of it.
No worries. Well, congratulations on your second place, an amazing result. I'm sure we can all agree on. Before we let you go, anyone you want to give a shout out quicker to?
I would like to thank you guys, the broadcasters and everything. You guys do a really great job, like season after season, and family and my friends, and everyone who supports me.
No worries. That's Josh Soto, who finished second here today. Spec Miatas at Barber Motorsport.
And there we go. And of course, I tossed Tim out of the commentary booth for a second there because I just didn't like the way that interview was ending up. Welcome back, Tim. You know, I think somebody needs to take my Discord fingers away. All right, so we had Charles Vaccaro sitting in the green room for just a second, and looks as though he is going to probably get ready for the next race. So why don't we do that as well? But first, we are going to take a quick little break. We're going to thank some of our sponsors, and when we come back, we will have race number 2 from Barber Motorsports Park, the Spec Racer Fords, and we'll be right back.
Are you struggling for consistency in your sim racing? Does your iRating look like a roller coaster? If so, we have good news for you. The way to get more consistent is to first understand what you're doing differently than the professionals. And VRS is the answer. With our competitive subscription, you will have the telemetry, setups, tutorials, and everything else you need to fully analyze your driving. Our data packs and the ability to compare your driving with the best in the world will show you exactly where to adjust your inputs, change your driving line, and shave seconds off of your lap times. And our powerful and precise Direct Force Pro wheelbase and precision pedals are being used by some of the world's best drivers. All these champions agree that VRS hardware is not just the best on the market, it's also priced well below the competition. So if you're looking to upgrade to direct drive and the best pedals in sim racing, VRS is your answer. If you want to get better, get faster, and make it happen sooner rather than later, you owe it to yourself to find out why so many people are switching to VRS. You'll be so glad that you did. Visit www.virtualracingschool.com and learn why the best use VRS.
All right, and we are back at Barber Motorsports Park for Season 6 of the Ray Esports Racing League. I'm Greg Ginsburg along with Tim Cox. And again, want to congratulate our podium finishers in our first race of the evening, Spec Miata, where Juan Chilin took the win. Josh Soto finished second, and Charles Vaccaro rounded out the top 3. And if you like what you're seeing here tonight, please go ahead and give us a thumbs up here on YouTube. And if you haven't done so already, you can go ahead and subscribe to Apex Racing TV and click on that notification bell so you can find out about all the great virtual motorsports action that we have seemingly around the clock for you. And if you want to find out when those different events are going to be happening, so you can get ready, get psyched up for your favorite racing on Apex Racing TV, you can subscribe to us on Facebook, on Instagram, and on Twitter. Just search for one word, Apex Racing TV. All right, so we are now just about halfway through our Spec Racer Ford qualifying session here, Tim, and let's do this as we are wont to do each week. Let's take a look at the class that is not racing here with us this evening, and we'll take a look at the finish from the previous week, as well as where that class stands, and that's the F4 class in the championship, where Caleb Patry last week at Mid-Ohio, commanding win over Morgan Burkhardt, over 8 seconds, and then another 10 seconds back to Beans Forster, and then John Vogel, who is our provisional pole sitter right now in Spec Racer Ford, finished back in 4th position, about 2.5 seconds back from Beans Forster. And if we take a look at the championship standings right now, and this is after 4 rounds complete in F4, Morgan Burkhardt, for the second class out of 3, he is your current points leader, and much like in Spec Miata, coming into this evening with a heck of a lead in the championship, 30 points. He's got 97 points. Teammate Caleb Patry sitting second with 67 points. Then John Vogel with 61, only 6 points back from Caleb Patry. And then we've got Jordy Fike and Deacon Greenfield. Fike sitting 4th with 56 points. Deacon Greenfield, 46 points, finds him in 5th position. He made up three positions in the championship over the last week. As we see there, John Casey going for a little bit of a ride in the Team 046 Racing Spec Racer Ford. And so let's take a look now where we are again after 4 weeks in the Spec Racer Ford Championship. This race, this was held 2 weeks ago at Road Atlanta, where we saw Morgan Burkhardt take the win over John Vogel, with Antonio Rice, who was our pole sitter that night, finishing in 3rd, Josh Justice finishing in 4th, Charles Vaccaro finishing in 5th, and I think we talked about it last week. A great battle for 4th place between Justice, Vaccaro, Yoshikawa, and Jordy Fike, where 3 of those 4 cars got together at the apex of the final corner and somehow all managed to take the checkered flag. And if we take a look at the championship standings, a little bit closer than what we see in Spec Miata or Spec Racer Ford, but the one constant, it is still Morgan Burkhardt, your championship leader. We'll have to see if that holds true after tonight, where Burkhardt has 55 points. Josh Justice only 2 points back with 53. Charles Vaccaro a single point back from there with 52. He is currently running 3rd in the championship. And then we've got Wan Shi Lin and Jordy Fike currently tied for 5th. Tied for 4th at 48 points. So very, very tight in the Spec Racer Ford Championship, Tim.
It is, and it was a real race of the ages, wasn't it, last time out at Road Atlanta? Wow. I mean, we had some absolutely scintillating action. I mean, even at the previous round as well. Again, absolute epic action, and as much as I do miss not having them here every single week, because they've just been absolutely epic racing all season long, haven't they, Greg? But I mean, equal measures, so have the Ford Spec racers as well. We've seen close racing, we've seen tight finishes, and well, based on qualifying currently ongoing, Greg, I think it's not going to be much different, and especially, a lot of the drivers carrying over a bit of momentum from race 1 in the Spec Miatas, and maybe a few of them out for a bit of redemption and to undo some of the wrongdoings in race 1.
That may be the case, as we have Jordy Fike here. I do not see I don't see, however, Greg Mack, and we typically see him in the Spec Racer boards, but not here tonight. We also. I don't think we have a time set yet for Wan Shi Lin, which is a bit of a surprise, as Lin is a bit of a Specialist, thank you. That is exactly the word that I was looking for and could not get to come out of my. You were talking about being on the Curry Strip there in Birmingham. As I am still fighting off the incredibly hot Korean food I had this evening. I couldn't get the word specialist out, but indeed Wan Shi Lin is, and still no time set for him. But we do have Charles Vaccaro out here on track. He is a Spec Racer Ford racer by trade in real life, as is Josh Justice, racing Spec Racer Fords out on the west coast of the United States. John Vogel in the number 4 machine, also a Spec Racer Ford specialist in real life. So no shortage of folks that know how to muscle these fiberglass bodied tube frame cars around. Now I'd also see, and he has not set a time yet, Josh Soto is out running here as well. And I don't remember the last time that Josh Soto ran in Spec Racer Ford, but it looks like he is giving it a whirl. Just unfortunately has not set a time yet here, as we only have a little bit over a minute remaining in our 15-minute qualifying session.
We do indeed, don't we, Greg? And I tell you what, it surprises me in some ways that we've had the drivers, especially Soto being one of them, yet to set a time during qualifying. But let's not forget, last time, only a few moments ago, we saw how he came from the back of the grid to the front. Are we going to see maybe a little bit of history repeating itself, potentially? Well, you wouldn't bet against it, would you? Because I think Soto clearly G'd up by it. He's one driver who's carrying a lot of momentum across into race 2.
Absolutely, given how well he ran in race number 1. And, and frankly, if we see Wan Shi Lin start from the back of the field here tonight, with the field now looking as though it's only 12 cars deep, he may have as good of luck as Josh Soto had in race number 1. But I would not bet against John Vogel at this point if you have to have a Wan Shi Lin, or Josh Soto for that matter, coming from the back of the field, and John Vogel sitting at the other end of the field. I'd put my money on the pole sitter here, as time has now expired in qualifying here at Barber Motorsports Park. It looks like Josh Justice not getting across the line before the clock winds down, so he's just going to be taking a cool down lap there, as is, I believe, it looks like both Vogel and perhaps Deacon Greenfield maybe a little bit off the pace here, as they are rolling through, coming through the carousel section, and you can see there, probably not the carousel, but the corkscrew. And Tim, a little interesting to see Greenfield get loose there, as that was exactly, or was that him, or was that John Casey that had issues there? Because I would say that was the area where Greenfield had issues in race number 1 down through the corkscrew at turns 7 through 9.
He's definitely one driver out for a bit of redemption in race 2, isn't he? There's a few out. Greg Mack, I think, is going to be another one. And clearly, maybe driving the car in a little bit of an anger, but it's worked to an absolute T, because he's going to line up on the front row. Watch out for him from the start and taking the fight to John Vogel in that number 4 machine. I think there's going to be some fireworks potentially down into turn 1 and in through turn 2 on the opening lap between those guys.
Yeah, and it looks like we've got a few drivers that are taking some last little practice laps here before iRacing forces them to report to the grid for tonight's race. And indeed, we see Greg Mack now. I think early on I didn't see Greg Mack in the session, but as you mentioned, did very well in qualifying. He's going to start on the outside of the front row, and as we saw at the start of the Spec Miata race, I think in many regards, Tim, starting on the outside of the front row here at Barber is the more advantageous position than starting to drivers left going into turn 1 on that start.
It is, because what it does is, as much as you are on the outside for turn 1, turn 2 instantly comes at you, and it's a much longer curve, sweeping all the way through 180 degrees, Greg, and because you're then going to be on the inside for that corner, and also turn 4, although that's more of a kink than a true corner, but it's going to give you that edge, and whoever's ahead, or at least alongside and on the inside into turn 2 and 3, they're going to come out ahead and leading into turn 5.
All right, so we've got our drivers gridding up now for our final race of the evening. Tim, why don't you take the starting grid for tonight's race?
Absolute pleasure, Greg. John Vogel heads up on pole. He's joined by Greg Mack, and I'll tell you what a lap from Vogel. 1:35.6. 8 tenths clear of Mack in second, who was no slouch himself whatsoever. Charlie Vaccaro of Captain Lawrence Brewing is joined by Team Esports racer Geordie Fike on the second row. Josh Justice, he's got Deacon Greenfield of the company on the third row of the grid, and watch out for Greenfield. Showed some decent pace until he had his incident, and if he can keep it together, he's one to watch out for in race 2. John Casey of 046 Racing, he's got Wayne Buttermore alongside him on the fourth row of the grid. Joaquin Effinger and Yang Shi Lin, a really disappointing qualifying from Lin, starting all the way down in 10th place. He's, as we mentioned earlier, he is a Spec Racer specialist. So expect to see him coming through the field and challenging for a win. That's going to be one really to watch out for. Josh Soto, off the back of a second place, starts in, well, the near identical place in race 2. 11th, with Mark Sherman joining him on the 6th and last row of the grid.
All right, thanks so much, Tim. And so as our drivers are starting their pace lap, let's talk about the sponsor for tonight's race, and that is Spec Racer Sports, who is with us here at the Esports Racing League for their 3rd season in a row. We want to welcome them back. And Spec Racer Sports' mission is to help fuel and support your addiction to road racing, and they feel that the way to accomplish this is by providing exceptional customer support as well as the parts and services you need when you need them at a fair, competitive price. Spec Racer Sports currently stables Spec Racer Fords and offers them as rental cars that are exceptionally prepared. They're located trackside at Motorsports Ranch Houston and provide access to the track for a rental or even a test drive. As long as you ask, it can be arranged. And in addition to new car sales, storage, and support, they offer a complement of technical services such as chassis dyno work, driver coaching, and fabrication, offering them all at very competitive rates. To find out more about Spec Racer Sports and their services, head on over to specracersports.com.
See a bit of tyre warming going on out there, Greg. It's mainly from, I think it's Fike and Vaccaro. They've got definitely everyone in the right lane having a good old weave about, trying to get some temperature in the tyres. Doesn't matter too much with these high track temperatures, Greg, due to them being, well, so ridiculously high here. Just a lovely summer's day here in Birmingham, Alabama, but 51 degrees Celsius. That's well over 120 Fahrenheit. It is incredibly hot, but that does mean that you can get a lot of heat into those tyres very quickly. But as like with race 1 in the Spec Miatas, it's all about managing that tyre life and making sure you don't take too much out of the car on the tyres early on, and that'll really hurt you later in the race. Those drivers that can manage those tyres early on will be more successful and will climb places hand over fist in the latter stages.
All right, so the pace car now is on the pit lane, and that means John Vogel, driver of the number 4 Carrier Air Conditioning Spec Racer Ford, has the field as they now come onto the front straight, waiting for that green flag. You can see they've got the brakes on, dragging those brakes, trying to get some additional heat in the tires, and green flag here at Barber as Vogel jumps out to a very early lead, gets a better jump than Greg Mack and Geordie Fike on driver's right. Oh, and going around is Charles Vaccaro. Doesn't hit anything. He's got that extra bit of pavement there from the pit lane exit, but he's going to fall to the back of the field. That's going to move Greg Mack now up in the second with Jordy Fike. Since deja vu here as Josh Justice is battling with Fike as they make the run down to the hairpin over at turn number 4. And as they probably turn 5, and as they come around the hairpin, Justice still has not been able to get that pass done. He's going to come underneath Greg Mack, though, trying to move his way up from 5th position up into 2nd. Cannot get past the number 2 machine. He's going to have to follow Greg Mack down through the corkscrew with Jordy Fike close behind. Then we've got Deacon Greenfield in the number 36 machine, but going around, that is, I believe that's Joaquin Effinger, spun the number 700 machine. He's now going to fall back into last place. And look at this. Just as he was making a move on the Team Esports Racer driver, Josh Justice runs wide, makes a long run through the grass, almost rejoins right in the middle of traffic, but he now is going to fall back through the field as well. That's going to move Greg Mack back up into 2nd position, Jordy Fike up into 3rd, Deacon Greenfield in the number 36 machine there, and you can see as he's pulling Josh Soto along, Deacon Greenfield now up into 4th. And look at this Josh Soto, who did not set a time in qualifying, Tim. He is now up into 5th position, having made up 6 spots, and he's had a better start than Wan Chi Lin has at this point.
It's deja vu all over again in the Miatas. At this stage of the race, Soto again 6 places. He's at it again, and battling on behind him is Lin in the 30, heading up the inside. That's going to be a move done and dusted over Casey, and expect to see Lin coming past Soto incredibly quickly. But for me, the interesting one's going to be is watching Soto work with Lin to clear through the field. Those two could be a real power couple and really dangerous to the likes of Vogel, Mack and Fike and Greenfield all ahead of them.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely no Ben Affleck and Jennifer Lopez or anything, but I would definitely rate Josh Soto and Wan Chi Lin as a power couple, Tim, as they look at this, as they are all teaming up on Deacon Greenfield in the 36 machine. Josh Soto manages to get around the 36, as now does Wan Chi Lin. Wan Chi Lin and Soto move up into 5th and 4th respectively. And it looks like John Casey's looking at taking a little look at Greenfield as well, as they come out of the final corner and complete lap number 3, or probably complete lap number 2, starting lap number 3 here. But Lin and Soto certainly not falling over one another, trying to move up into 3rd position. They've got Jordy Fike next in line. As it looks like Wan Chi Lin, though, great move on Soto. Soto had a little bit of a bobble there, and he's followed back into the clutches of Greenfield.
Here comes Greenfield, the run down towards 5, but the 7 of Soto is on that inside line, and it's just slum up on the apex, just compromise the exit of Deacon Greenfield and back him up into John Casey, who's only 4 tenths behind Greenfield. You could prefer the perennial blanket over these 3 drivers right now, but whereas Soto, he's lost his sparring pass of Lin, and the gap now 1.3 seconds between those two, and I do have to wonder what Soto can pull out of the bag as he's being harassed and harangued right now, as that's Wayne Buttermore off.
Yeah, as Wayne Buttermore goes around, he was right beside Charles Vaccaro, but I think Buttermore just had the rear end come around on him. He's now going to drop back into 10th position after having started in 8th tonight. And I think he's still got Joaquin Effinger sitting back behind him. So once again, Joaquin Effinger and Wayne Buttermore will have that chance to battle it out together for another 15 minutes here from Barber, as Soto now starting to separate himself out just a little bit from Deacon Greenfield. And if we watch here, Lin now definitely starting to make up ground on Jordy Fike. Lin having just run the fastest lap of the race, almost a full half second faster than the 09 machine of Fike. And you can see there, you know, talk about deja vu all over again. We've got Mac and Fike running second and third. And with Soto, or probably with Lynn coming, I wonder if Fike will maybe get a little anxious for the second race in a row, and whether or not Greg Mack will be ready for it there. But Wan Chi Lin definitely coming here, as the gap is now only it's about 2 seconds, but closing very quickly.
It is, as Lynn setting the fastest lap of the race last time around, 1:35.9, the only driver in the 1:35s, and half a second quicker than Fike ahead of him. Well, I don't want to look in some ways right now, Greg, because
I'm afraid to say anything about it.
We've seen second place, Soto up 6 places and into 5th in the opening stages of the race. We don't want to collect the set this time, but this time.
No, and I think we've seen this movie before, as both Mac and Fike come out of the final corner onto the front straight, and Fike already taking a couple of peeks to the inside of the number 2 machine here. And once again, Fike appears to be at this juncture in the race perhaps a little bit quicker over the majority of the circuit than the number 2 machine, and he's got to be looking in the rearview mirror here as Wan Chi Lin, for the second lap in a row, your fastest driver on course, and this time 0.8 of a second faster than the 2 Team Esport Racer drivers. And you saw there as Fike tried to outbrake Greg Mack once again, got a little bit of extra rotation there, but lost a lot of momentum. And now Wan Chi Lin and Jordy Fike work themselves clear of Greg Mack in the 2 as they come down through the corkscrew. And Wan Chi Lin, I think, with one thing on his mind, and it is the number 4 machine of Vogel. And you know, Vogel doesn't appear to be that far ahead. It's about 4.5 seconds at this point, but it just doesn't seem that, given the pace that Lin has been running, which is almost a half a second a lap faster than John Vogel. It doesn't seem out of hat here if Wan Chi Lin can dispatch of the 09 machine.
Funnily enough, I've just been sat here doing the proverbial back of fag packet style maths for you right now, Greg. And yeah, he's still within a shout. But Lin needs to clear Fike as quickly as possible, and he's right now the meat in a sandwich between the teammates of Fike and Mac. And well, are we going to see the return of the Mac to the podium positions? Is it going to end in tears for them? We've still got 12 minutes of racing left to go, but this is Lin. He's on the inside of Fike. Now, I was expecting Mac to see Mac follow him through, but he's elected to sit behind his teammate, play it a bit safe, and I think that was a missed opportunity there for Mac to easily get a move done on his teammate.
And Wan Chi Lin easily gets around Jordy Fike going into the hairpin now as they make that run over towards the corkscrew and drop down the hill here. And let's see if Greg Mack can return the favor on Jordy Fike. But for the time being now, with just about 11 minutes remaining in this 20-minute race, not quite halfway, Wan Chi Lin has now worked his way up into second position after having started 10th tonight. And the gap between first and second, 4.8 seconds.
Sorry to cut across you. Something's happened to Soto. There he is.
Yes. And Soto has gone off now, and it looks like back behind him, we had John Casey go off as well. Let's take a look at the replay and see exactly what happened to Josh Soto.
All looks calm for now. We're going to see him lose the rear. Just get out of shape. Yeah, there we go. Too much curb on the inside. Oh, wow.
Yeah, and it looks like Deacon Greenfield needed to get on the binders to avoid hitting Josh Soto, and I was just marveling at how close the margin was there as Josh Justice came down through the corkscrew right behind Josh Soto and somehow managed to keep his eyes up and avoid the 07 car there, but it could have ended much worse for Josh Justice, who's had his issues tonight, as well as Wan Qilin now once again running fast lap of the race, 0.2 of a second faster, almost 0.3 of a second faster than the number 4 machine of John Vogel, who's had a fairly easy run of it so far, and perhaps doesn't need to be going 100% at this point. But at the rate that Wan Qilin is coming, Tim, I might be running 97 or 98%.
You may well be indeed. It's just looking at those lap times. It has been consistent from Lin of the amount of time he's been taking out. So anywhere between just over 0.3 to half a second every single lap. And there you go. So already he's taken another 0.4 out of Vogel. If I was Vogel right now, this is tricky. I mean, he needs to look at the lap times he's doing. He needs to work out how many laps it will give him at his current pace, and maybe even just rein in a little bit. Yes, that will allow Lin to catch him, but if it means he has to do one less lap, that could be the crucial difference between Lin and Vogel. As there you go, another new fastest lap of the race from Lin. This time, 0.3 quicker exactly than Vogel.
Yeah, and you know, Vogel has been, and Vogel just ran his fastest lap of the race just got into the 35s for the very first time. He had been running incredibly consistent times, only about 0.06 of a second between what was his previous fast lap and what he had been running the previous number of laps. But it looks like John Vogel, when he needs to, although still 0.3 off of Wan Qilin's times, has been able to start to pick up the pace just a little bit. But yeah, I guess it would be in Vogel's. It would be to his advantage to dial everything back and perhaps run one fewer lap or one less lap during tonight's race here. Of course, the challenge there is, as you maybe come off, maybe start to back things up a little bit, you put yourself at jeopardy with Wan Qilin coming, knowing that he's already the faster driver.
Yes, but I think it's neutralized a little bit. I mean, this time around, Vogel hasn't lost really any time to Lin. Certainly not on the droves like we've been seeing over the last few laps, Greg. And I have to wonder, we spoke about it, in the build-up during qualifying, about those tyre temperatures and maintaining tyre life. There's just only 2 attempts that, last time around, that Lin has been able to take out of Vogel. Now, Lin is clearly taking a lot of time out of Vogel in those last sectors. So pretty much turns 11 through to 15, the final corner. That's the only place where he's making a difference up. But how much has Lin pushed his tyres? What life has he got left in them? Well, as that gap stagnating, Greg, I think Lin has maxed out his tyres' ability, and they're starting to give up on him, and that's why he's not catching Vogel, certainly at the rate of knots as what he was doing a lot earlier.
No, and you watch Vogel, and he has been, he hasn't had to push the car, but he has been opening up corners as much as he can, and been very, very smooth here this evening. And not only smooth, but as I mentioned, consistent. So he had run his fastest lap of the race 2 laps ago. The next lap, only 0.03 of a second off of that fast time. And again, Wan Qilin, he is making up ground on each lap here. But as you mentioned, that march has slowed considerably for Wan Qilin. And I think as we're watching right now, I think perhaps it has actually opened up a little bit more, as we see Lin once again, really much like he did in the Spec Miatas, really throwing the rear end of that car around.
For a car that you have to really drive on the throttle and is quite loose at the rear, it's this car that I've never been able to get to grips with truly, Greg. I mean, maximum respect to these drivers, the way that they just throw it around and make it look complete and utter child's play. But I mean, having said that, I mean, what do we know? I mean, Lin is back to his ways again, taking another couple of attempts out of Vogel. But again, like we saw in race 1, I think this is too little too late now. I think the damage is already being done, and I don't see Lin catching Vogel.
No, with just now 5 minutes remaining, and about 4 seconds a lap. And please don't ask me to do the math in my head, but I will agree with you that I don't think Wan Qilin is going to be able to get up to our leader before this race ends, unless John Vogel takes some drastic measure to kind of throw the race away. At this point, he just has to keep his head down and be consistent, and he should be able to make it to the checker before Wan Qilin can get up to his rear bumper.
You should be able to. I mean, looking at it now, we've got 4 minutes left. On average, the drivers are lapping at 1 minute 35. So, I mean, you're looking at another 3 laps. Lin is gaining on Vogel around about 4 attempts. Mathematically, it's not possible, but like you say, one mistake from Vogel makes it truly possible. So we're just seeing Justice just closing up to the back of Charlie Vaccaro. Another driver to lose out. Of course, that spin early on really not helping him. That's why he's currently down 2 places from where he started. But Justice is down just 1. So again, this is all down to Yang Lin and the amount of places that he has made up here today.
Yeah, but remember that Justice had been up as high as 3rd or 2nd if you consider his run through the grass there on lap number 2, whereas Vaccaro had started off in 3rd position. And both of these drivers had some issues early on in the race. Vaccaro, coming out of turn 1 on the very first lap, managed to recover without hitting anything, but did find himself at the very end of the field at the conclusion of lap number 1, and so he has made up now about 5 positions. So a good recovery drive for him. And then Josh Justice, just a lap, actually 2 laps later, found himself at the tail end of the field. And so both of those drivers have worked their way past Deacon Greenfield, John Casey, as well as Wayne Buttermore. So let's take a look at those margins, Tim, as Lin continues to knock anywhere between 2 and 3/10 of a second out of John Vogel's lead here, as we now have only 2.5 minutes remaining. And as Vogel crosses the stripe, and at what, 135, I guess this lap and 1 more, I think will get them to the checkered flag.
That you're absolutely spot on. So Vogel's around about a 10th around his current lap. So you're looking at 2 more laps realistically here. And again, it's that clock playing part of it, meaning they're going to have to do an extra lap here at Barber.
But with 3/10 separating our 2 leaders, it might be just a little bit too little, too late. As looks like Josh Justice, we were just talking about Justice and Vaccaro battling it out for 5th position. I think Josh Justice has left the track surface, and he has now fallen back. Well, we're still showing him in 6th position. It may have maybe some internet connectivity issues. We'll see. Perhaps Dennis might have some insight.
I'll tell you what, one thing I am will come to my point after we've seen the replay. So this is Josh Justice, and what happened to it? Oh, bounced across the curves on the inside. Took too much. Held it initially, but
wow. Well, there you go. He didn't lose a position and got the car going. That was as they say in Disneyland, Mr. Toad's wild ride for Josh Justice. As he had the front end of the car up in the air, then the rear end of the car, never both at the same time, mind you, but more amazingly was able to gather the car up once he got all 4 back on the pavement.
I just think it was spectacular, wasn't it? It's a bit of dicing with death going on there right now, but I'll tell you what, Lin's having a real good go with this, isn't he? He's not giving up, he's not throwing in the towel, but we're on to the final lap, and that is, even by Yang Lin standards, too big to make up. He's going to run out of time, and he is running out of time fast right now. And all it takes is Vogel to make a mistake, though. He will be back into it, but I just don't see Vogel making a mistake. Yeah, hold on.
No. Is John Vogel, is he having did he have some? I think it was just some connectivity issues. There we go. As we show him back in the lead there.
Just as I was saying, I don't see him losing it, and then all of a sudden he drops it out, but he's back again. That's okay.
There we go. As he comes back to the to the land of the living there in just enough time, as the margin is now down to a little bit under 2.5 seconds between John Vogel and Wan Qilin here, as we are on the very last lap, and just a few corners remain here at Barber, coming into the last complex and into the final corners, coming onto the front straight now. John Vogel leading the way and taking the win. Actually, we're not. Yep, there we go. Taking the win here at Barber. That one isn't going to go into the top 10 for iRacing. John Vogel, your winner tonight. Wan Qilin finishing second. Jordy Fike there finishing in third. His teammate Greg Mack will bring the number 2 machine home in 4th position. And there is Josh Justice. And perhaps there was another incident that we didn't catch on the very last lap, as Josh Justice brings the car home in 5th. Charles Vaccaro, who just a lap ago was in 5th position, he's going to finish in 6th. Deacon Greenfield will finish in 7th, followed by John Casey and Wayne Buttermore, finishing 3 laps down. Josh Soto will round out the top 10 from the pit lane. So Dennis, real quick before we start looking for interviewees, do we know what happened to Charles Vaccaro on that last lap? And just like that, we've got the replay. And let's take a look as you see Justice behind Vaccaro going down into the corkscrew.
Carries on out the other side.
Yeah, and the track goes right and Vaccaro went left. And that is how he ends up in 6th position. All right, so Tim, we've got our winner tonight, John Vogel, sitting in the green room here. Let's bring him on in, if I can do it.
Let's see if we can.
Yeah, let's see, Tim. I'm having
bit
some.
of there we go. There we go, John. Welcome along. I mean,
hi guys.
It looked like a comfortable victory for you there today.
Yeah, if Wan Qi had qualified up front, it wouldn't have been like that. And I know he has so much pace. In the middle of the race, I kind of looked back when he was working through traffic, working through Greg, and I thought, I better put some laps down in the middle here so I've got something left. And it's nice to have a cushion. If you miss an apex, you can lift a little bit so you don't run off the exit side. And, you know, that cushion helped. I don't know what would have happened if we'd have been together, but it wasn't as easy as it looked because he's fast and he was coming.
Well, yeah, he was. I mean, you say about him coming, he was coming at about half a second a lap at one point. I mean, it's frightening pace, and no slouch yourself at all. So, I mean, that was some incredible pace from him. But, I mean, even so, you've got to bask in the glory when you take it. You've got to be there to take these opportunities. And coming into this round, you know, I'm sure. Were you even expecting a win, or just?
I don't know.
The shouts.
I think it's time to start beating these kids. You know, I mean, Morgan and Caleb and Wan Qi, when he drops in, and the other guys too, they're all so fast. They raised the bar. And, you know, I learned a little bit last week because the track is so different, just like it is at a real SCCA event, that I need a little better setup for the heat in the afternoon. And I think that was a little advantage those guys have had on me in the races. So I've tried to make a couple of changes to correct that. I'd like to see if my F4 car has a little more pace in the next race. I suppose we'll find out in the race. But, I mean, it's treacherous after qualifying when you drop in the heat in those races just to keep it on the track. So it's fun, but it's treacherous.
Well, hopefully that all comes towards you, and like you say, good to hear that you're beating, as we call them in the UK, whippersnappers. You know, kids that are a bit overconfident and a bit cocky and self-assured, and getting a bit too big for their boots, shall we say? And good to see that happening. John, before we let you go, anyone you want to give a shout out to at all?
Yeah, Carrier Air Conditioning. They sponsor our real stuff, and Elite Autosport supports us at the racetrack at the SCCA events, and the Hoosier Super Tour guys, and you guys, and Stevie Ray. So that's it. Thanks for doing it. Yeah.
Hey, absolute pleasure when you put on great racing like that. That's John Vogel, your victor here today at Barber Motorsport Park.
Thanks, guys. Good night.
All right, there you go. And I actually got him out of the room without ditching you or me
I know.
tonight, Tim. Maybe we need to get some of those young whippersnappers to teach me more about Discord, because I still can't get it right after a couple years. All right, so let's wrap things up here from Barber, Tim. And a great run tonight. Again, your winner in race number 2, John Vogel, Wanchi Lin finishing second, Jordy Fike taking the last step on the podium. And if you liked what you saw here tonight, please remember, give us a thumbs up on YouTube. Go ahead and click subscribe to Apex Racing TV and click on that notification bell. And you should do that before our outing next week, next Tuesday night, 9 p.m. Eastern Time, where we will be heading out to Sears Point, out to California wine country, to Sonoma Raceway, otherwise known as Infineon Raceway, otherwise known as Sears Point, where we will see our Spec Racer Fords once again. And as Mr. Vogel was just speaking of, the F4 cars will make their return at Sonoma Raceway, home of the 2018 national championship runoffs from the SCCA, and always a great race, but also another, much like Barber, a very difficult track to pass at. So for Tim Cox, for Dennis Branch, I'm Greg Ginsburg. We'll see you next Tuesday night from Sonoma Raceway. Have a great week, everybody.